Hey, this is Rob Montgomery, and we're going through the Psalms today. We're in chapter 5, and I'm excited about this particular psalm. I think it's a beautiful psalm. We're going to start off reading verses 1 and 2. It says, "Give ear to my words, O Lord, consider my meditation. Hearken unto the voice of my cry, my King and my God, for unto thee will I pray." And again, this is a Psalm of David, is what it says in my good old King James Version. So David is writing to the chief musician. Evidently, this is a song he wrote. And he's starting off with a prayer. And he says, "Consider my meditation." Now, when I first see that word, I think about meditation in the sense of maybe just thinking or just being still and contemplating. But when you actually look up this word meditation, what it means is a complaint, or the actual other definition is murmur. So that makes me feel good because a lot of times we think prayer is to always be this type of conversation where we are praising the Lord or speaking, I'll say, positive things or just asking for help. But here, David is saying, please consider my complaint. Please consider my murmur. In other words, Lord, I'm about to share some stuff from my heart to you. I'm going to complain a little bit. So I want to say to you today, David, a man after God's own heart, no doubt, complained to the Lord. So you are free as a Christian to share your heart. God knows our hearts before we talk to Him. So if you're dealing with something and you need to share it with Him, go right ahead. He says in verse 3, "My voice shalt thou hear in the morning." I think that's so beautiful. He says, "O Lord, in the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up." I think this is a great verse because we see David wanting to pray in the morning. In the last chapter, he said that he would commune with Him on his bed. And so we have David praying at night as he's going to bed. When he gets up, he's talking to the Lord. And so I want to encourage you today, 2025. I challenged you with the last psalm to put the phone down, talk to the Lord. Now, some of us, maybe one of the first things we do when we wake up is look at our notifications, look at emails, see who's sent us an email, look at Facebook to see if there's any updates on our posts. I'm doing this YouTube channel, excited to get people to follow it and see how many views there are. It's so tempting to get up in the morning and say, hey, what happened overnight? But I would say this, David said to the Lord, you're going to hear my voice in the morning, God. I think it's great to start off the day just saying, good morning, Lord. So I want to encourage you in 2025, talk to God in the morning. It also says, and I will look up. How many of us think about the way we pray? I've heard it said many times when you pray, let's bow our head and close our eyes. And so we do that, right? We close our eyes, we bow our head, and that's in honor and reverence. But here David's saying, hey, I'm going to pray and I'm going to look up. Have you ever prayed looking up with your eyes wide open? I have. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, did he actually mean physically that's what you're supposed to do? Or was this writing more symbolic in nature and saying, I'm going to look up in the sense of my heart and my mind's going to be directed to you, God, looking up to you. That may be what he means, but I would say to you today, when it comes to prayer positions, nothing wrong with looking up and praying. Now, in verses 4 through 6, he talks about what God does not like, what he hates, and what we're going to see here is 7 types of things that the Lord hates. And so let me read these verses and then we'll go back and call them out individually. Just see if you can pick them up as I'm reading here. Verse 4 says, "For thou art not a God that hath pleasure in wickedness, neither shall evil dwell with thee. The foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. Thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing. The Lord will abhor the bloody and deceitful man." All right, so let's go through these. There's 7 types of people that it says God does not have pleasure in these things or hates these things. The first one is wickedness. The second one was evil. The third was foolish. And this word, if you look it up, is someone that's boastful. A little bit different than the word fool when it says the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Those words are a little bit different. Foolish here is someone that's more boastful or prideful. It says workers of iniquity. Do you remember what leasing was? We talked about that last time. Those that speak leasing. That's a King James word meaning lying, those that lie. The bloody are the bloodthirsty, and the deceitful man are, in essence, frauds, people that are dishonest. So those are the 7 types of people that God has a major problem with. Verse 7, though, says, it's a contrast here. David calls this type of person out, but then says, but as for me, I will come into thy house in the multitude of thy mercy, and in thy fear will I worship toward thy holy hill. Again, we have a contrast here. We have those that God does not like, he abhors or hates or does not have pleasure in. And then you have the other that's going to actually come into his presence. You see the contrast here. We saw that in chapter 1 when we talked about the blessed versus the ungodly. We saw it in chapter 2 when we talked about the world versus the believer. And what is that type of person? It says, I will come into thy house in the multitude, and in thy fear will I worship toward thy holy hill. Verse 8 says, lead me, O Lord, in thy righteousness. Let me go back here real quick to verse 7. When he says worship, I will worship, I stumbled on this word. It just stood out to me. I thought, what's that mean? If you look up the Hebrew word for worship in this particular sentence, it actually means to bow down or even get prostrate, which is on your face. Before I came to the Church of God, I had never seen anyone get on their faces before the Lord. And when I saw that, I thought it was kind of odd at first. But then the more that I've actually got on my face and laid down to pray, I've actually grown to appreciate it, because I really feel like I'm getting as low as I can. You know, those wicked ones described here, it started off with the foolish. You know, those are the boastful. They're prideful. They're not going to get down low. But those that want to get close to God, commune with Him, come to His holy hill, they've got to be in a place where they're willing to get low. So I thought that was pretty neat. Verse 8 again, sorry about that. It says, lead me, O Lord, in thy righteousness because of mine enemies. Make thy way straight before my face. In other words, make it clear, Lord, how I am to walk. Teach me, Lord. Give me a straight path. We've got enough going on. Lord, teach us how to walk. Verses 9 and 10, David prays against God's enemies. He says, for there is no faithfulness in their mouth. Their inward part is very wickedness. Their throat is an open sepulchre. They flatter with their tongue. Destroy thou them, O God. I love listening to him. This is a song to the Lord. And he's saying, destroy them, God. Let them fall by their own counsels. Cast them out in the multitude of their transgressions, for they have rebelled against thee. And something I wrote down here is, I wonder, did David have certain people in mind? Destroy them, God. Just an honest, praying man is what he was. That's so awesome. And I think, if God didn't want them to be destroyed, or if David was out of line, He'll correct us. He'll correct us. Just share your heart. Just share your heart when you pray. Verse 11 and 12 is an awesome thing, because now we have some rejoicing. Verse 11 says, but let all those that put their trust in thee rejoice. And I think that's tied together. If you are, what a great thermometer or gauge for your own Christian life. He says, let all those that put their trust in thee rejoice. In other words, if you can't rejoice, is it possible you're not putting your trust in God in the moment, that you're failing to trust Him in a situation? And what I have found is that if I'm overwhelmed, if I'm anxious or dealing with something and it's weighing heavy on me, if that's what I'm thinking about, it's hard to rejoice. It's hard to be happy. But as soon as I cast my care on God and give it to Him, then I'm free. I'm free to rejoice. So again, he says, let all those that put their trust in thee rejoice. Let them ever shout for joy, because thou defendest them. Let them also that love thy name be joyful in thee. What a beautiful thing to be able to rejoice, to be able to ever shout for joy, to be joyful in God. Verse 12 says, for thou, Lord, wilt bless the righteous. With favor wilt thou compass him as with a shield. And this word compass is interesting. It means to surround. And so what's it say? With favor wilt thou compass him. So with God's favor, His goodwill, His pleasure, He's going to surround us with His goodwill. You know, I don't believe in the prosperity gospel that is being taught in so many places, that's been going on for years. I'm not sure why people are so attached to that, other than maybe they just want to heap benefit to themselves. But I will say this to you, this is a type of prosperity in which the Lord, by putting your trust in Him, you are able to be joyful, and then He's going to constantly surround you with His favor. That, to me, while the enemy is going to attack, it sounds to me like He's going to take good care of us. He's going to prosper us. He's going to protect us. He's just going to surround us with His goodwill. What better thing to be surrounded by than the goodwill and pleasure of God? I hope this is a blessing to you. And if I could get anything out of this today, it would be get low before Him and pray, put your trust in Him, and just get ready to be blessed and rejoice once again as you do that. May God bless you.